King Zethkar had ruled the Valdorian Empire for 3 centuries, his crystalline exoskeleton gleaming with the accumulated wisdom of countless conquered worlds. To him, humans were merely another species to catalog, soft-bodied creatures, with pathetically short lifespans, suitable only for menial labor in the outer colonies. The throne room of his flagship Dominion's Edge stretched the length of 3 human city blocks, its walls lined with trophies from 1,000 subjugated civilizations. At its center sat the obsidian throne, a masterwork carved from a single piece of compressed dark matter, weighing approximately 47 tons and pulsing with gravitational fields that could crush most beings into paste. "Bring in the human specimen," Zethkar commanded, his voice resonating through the chamber's acoustic amplifiers. The specimen in question was Marcus Chen, a construction worker from the demolished city of New Singapore. Average height, unremarkable, build, with calloused hands and tired eyes that had seen too much destruction. The Valdorians had captured him during their latest recruitment drive, a euphemism for the systematic enslavement of human settlements. "This creature will demonstrate the futility of human resistance," Zethkar announced to his assembled court. The alien nobles chittered in amusement, their translucent wings catching the chamber's ethereal light. "Observe how easily it breaks." Marcus stood in the center of the vast room, dwarfed by the alien architecture. He had watched his home burn, seen his friends loaded onto transport ships, witnessed the casual cruelty of beings who considered him less than livestock. But something in his eyes hadn't dimmed, a spark that Zethkar mistook for simple stupidity. "Human," the king's voice boomed, "you will move my throne to the viewing deck. Succeed, and your people in Block 7 will receive additional food rations. Fail, and they will receive nothing for a week." The court erupted in laughter. Moving the obsidian throne required specialized gravitational manipulators operated by teams of Valdorian engineers. The dark matter construction made it impossibly dense, and its gravitational field had been known to liquefy organic matter that came too close. Marcus looked at the throne, then at the king. He had moved plenty of heavy equipment in his time, cranes, bulldozers, prefab building sections. This was just another job, albeit one with stakes higher than his usual overtime pay. "How far to the viewing deck?" he asked quietly. The question surprised Zethkar. He had expected begging, perhaps weeping. 200 meters, through 3 corridors and up a gravity lift. Marcus nodded and walked toward the throne. The court fell silent as he approached the deadly artifact. The gravitational field should have been crushing him by now, yet he continued forward with steady steps. What the Valdorians didn't understand about humans was that they had evolved on a world that was constantly trying to kill them. Every step of human development had been a battle against hostile forces, weather, predators, disease, each other. They had learned to adapt, to endure, to find ways forward when every rational calculation said there was none. Marcus reached the throne and placed his hands on its armrests. The dark matter was cold against his palms, and he could feel the immense weight settling into his bones. But he had carried his daughter on his shoulders during the evacuation of Jakarta. He had hauled his injured supervisor 3 miles through the rubble of the Mumbai collapse. His body knew how to bear impossible burdens. He lifted. The throne rose from its platform with a grinding roar that shook the chamber. Marcus's muscles screamed in protest, his vertebrae compressed under the massive load, but he held steady. The gravitational field pressed against him like an invisible vice, trying to tear him apart at the molecular level. But humans had something the Valdorians had never encountered, the ability to function past their breaking point. Step by step, Marcus carried the throne across the vast chamber. His breathing became labored, sweat poured down his face, and his legs trembled with each footfall. But he didn't stop. The assembled court watched in stunned silence as this fragile creature performed what their own engineers deemed impossible. Through the first corridor, where Marcus had to turn sideways to navigate the narrow passage, the throne's edges scraping against the walls. Through the second, where his knees nearly buckled and he had to pause for 30 seconds that felt like hours. Through the third, where his vision began to blur but his grip never loosened. At the gravity lift, Marcus stepped onto the platform and rode it upward. 47 tons of impossible weight balanced in his arms like a sleeping child. The mechanism, designed for Valdorian physiology, groaned under the unexpected load. Finally, he reached the viewing deck, a transparent dome that looked out onto the starfield beyond. Marcus set the throne down gently, with the same care he had once used to place his newborn daughter in her crib. Then he straightened, wiped the sweat from his eyes, and looked back at King Zethkar. "Where do you want it positioned?" he asked. The silence stretched for long moments. Zethkar's crystalline features reflected the starlight, but his expression was unreadable. He had ruled for 3 centuries by understanding the capabilities and limitations of every species in his empire. Humans had just shattered that understanding, completely. How did you? The king finally managed. Marcus shrugged, a gesture that somehow contained the weight of humanity's entire history of impossible achievements. "You said my people needed food, so I moved your chair." In that moment, Zethkar realized he had made a fundamental error. He had assumed that physical frailty meant weakness, that short lifespans meant limited capability. He had not understood that humans were not fragile because they were weak. They were fragile because they were willing to break themselves for something greater. The king rose from where his throne had once sat and walked slowly to the viewing deck. Marcus stepped aside, his job complete, his people fed for another day. As Zethkar settled into his relocated throne, he found himself looking at the human with something approaching respect. "What is your name, human?" "Marcus Chen." "Marcus Chen," the king repeated, testing the alien syllables. "Tell me, what drives your species to such extremes?" Marcus looked out at the stars, thinking of his daughter somewhere in the colony, ships of his friends in Block 7 who would eat tonight because he had lifted something impossible. Hope, I guess. And spite. We're too stubborn to know when we're beaten. Zethkar filed this information away carefully. Perhaps it was time to reconsider humanity's place in his empire. Any species capable of such feats might be worth something, more than slavery. But that was a decision for another day. For now, he simply sat in his relocated throne and wondered what other impossible things these fragile, stubborn humans might accomplish when properly motivated.